A Search for God Paraphrased, Book 1, Lesson 2, Know Thyself. From 1 Corinthians 12th chapter 27th verse. Now you are the body of Christ and individually members of it. Affirmation. Father, as we seek to see and know Thy face, may we each, as individuals and as a group, come to know ourselves even as we are known, that we, as lights in Thee, may give the better concept of Thy Spirit in this world. Or, our Heavenly Creator, we would know You as our Father and understand Your guidance. Help us, both as individuals and as a group, to know ourselves as You know us. Then we, Your children, can better represent Your Spirit in this world. Book 1, Lesson 2, Know Thyself, based on EDGAR CAYCE readings 262-5 through 262-11. Introduction. When asked, "Do you know yourself?" we cannot answer yes. Why? Certainly each of us has a virtual storehouse of unused abilities. If we were to use these abilities, we would see ourselves in a different and clearer light. We would understand how the functions of our physical body relate to our mental and spiritual bodies. Until we understand ourselves better, we are barriers to our own development. Why? We should and can know ourselves to be parts of the whole, that is, God, yet not the whole, but an individual within the whole. Basic to this ability is knowing self, since each must know self before he is able to determine his relationship to God. Then, know thyself. From reading 262-9, Question 10. What is the best means of knowing myself as I am known? Answer, by measuring self by the standard that is your own ideal. In your thoughts and acts, attune yourself with your ideal, and you'll always know what's passing on in your own self. We must first set our concepts and precepts, then our standards of how to perceive and evaluate how well we use these concepts and precepts. Our souls develop according to what we choose to feed them from within and from without. We depend on each other for material things, and in this relationship, each is the concept he accepts as his standard. We won't know ourselves if we measure only by earthly standards. Instead, we must seek within ourselves and find our highest ideal. When we know what we believe, we have our standard to measure by. We can then act accordingly. Let us, therefore, be willing to be measured, not by what we have, but by what we give. The physical body. Knowing ourselves isn't limited to awareness of our body's physical acts. It is knowing ourselves as complete entities, body, mind, and soul, aware of all our activity going on both within and without. We can tap this spring of knowledge only when we are willing to pay the price. The price is complete surrender of ourselves with purification and dedication. These come only through prayer, meditation, and service. It is the straight and narrow way, but it is open to all. The water of life is offered freely. As entities, we are miniature copies of the universe, possessing physical, mental, and spiritual bodies. These bodies are so closely related that the activities of each affect the other two. Our mental, especially, partakes of the other two, the conscious mind with the physical, and the superconscious mind with the spiritual. Our bodies are temples of the living God because it pleased God to manifest in this way. Our physical bodies are composite units of creative force manifesting in the material world. All parts of each body must work together, for if one part wars with another, discord follows. Each part has its functions, and only with difficulty can another take its place, as a blind person compensating with hearing, touch, and memory. No part is insignificant or useless. Each organ has individual functions and desires which are in themselves holy. The senses make us conscious of the desires, needs, and natures, as they occur, of our physical bodies. These register in our physical bodily activities and are stamped upon our very faces. The senses are attuned to the physical, and each perceives as it is taught by and focused on physical forces. In this way, our senses seek expression of our inner self, of which our physical bodies are material representations. The senses receive impressions not only from one experience as it occurs or from a single lifetime, but from all impressions received through all our experiences. These experiences are registered spiritually in our soul, mentally in our subconscious, and even materially in our physiognomy. From 262-8, each individual should know. First comes application, then understanding, and finally knowledge of that applied. When both body and thought are active, awakening soon comes to the entity of the life within. The mental and spiritual bodies. The desires of our mental and spiritual bodies build our individualities, that is, our souls, in the same manner as the desires of our physical bodies. The process of building has been going on for ages. The great factors of heredity, environment, karma, and our thoughts all have their influences, as do universal laws acting in the planes beyond the physical. These influences compare to the desires and activities of our physical organs, attracting and building the composition of our physical body. We are the result of the human race's development, but we are also the result of our individual development going on since our creation as souls. We are the sum total of all our experiences in every state of consciousness. From John 14:2, in my Father's house are many rooms, that is, states of consciousness. In our body temples, we build, by thoughts and acts, not only our physical bodies, but our mental and spiritual bodies as well. In Matthew chapter 15, verse 4, Christ the Master said, "A man is not defiled by what goes into his mouth, but by what comes out of it." When we live only to gratify our fleshly bodies, we may be beautiful without, but we starve our souls and can only create discord and corruption. In speaking of the scribes and Pharisees, Jesus said, "For you are like whitewashed tombs, which outwardly appear beautiful, but within they are full of dead men's bones and all uncleanness. So you also outwardly appear righteous to men, but within you are full of hypocrisy and iniquity." See Matthew 23rd chapter, starting at verse 27. The same principle applies to right thinking, for we become what we think. The soul seeks to act in the way that it has built, for, as Ecclesiastes 11:3 puts it, "In the place where the tree falls, there will it lie." This is not only true for the material plane, but universally true. We understand this truth from studying and knowing ourselves, for each experience is a lesson, bringing knowledge of the whole, knowledge that I and my Father are one. See John 10th chapter, verse 30. And from reading 262-8, as self meditates upon what has been taught, seeking answers to whatever comes into his awareness of various physical, mental, and spiritual conditions awakened by studying what was taught, self will see, feel, know, understand that which will awaken him to a closer unison of purpose. When we seek to find ourselves in the oneness of all life and one with God, we can see ourselves as did the individual who had the following dream. "I saw myself pass out of my body and become three bodies, physical, mental, and spiritual. At first the physical was the largest, but as the other two grew, it gradually became smaller until it finally faded into dust. The others then grew larger and moved around fourth-dimensionally." From reading 262-6, does love diminish from overactivity or grow by use? Does love fail or wear away? Or does it blossom in growth by use and thus create those forces that overcome all things? Do as your heart, your inner self, your soul dictate. Don't be ashamed to be what you are. And from reading 262-8, by regarding difficulties from a more mental and spiritual aspect, the entity would again hold idealistic visions, but arising from the rubbish of material things. From dreams come building in life's material aspects. First is visions that are to some unrealistic. They crystallize in the lives and activities of others, who then act so as to bring them into material reality. Also from reading 262-8. Even the most pessimistic concede that unseen forces are more powerful than those seen, or than reality according to some. Those who attune to the infinite, the dreamer, the visionary, more often receive the more infinite power. When we measure our acts and thoughts by Christ's standard, and only desire being channels of blessings to others, we lose sight of ourselves. Then we have Christ's mind, for he didn't come to be served, but to serve, and to give his life as a ransom for many. Thus, to find ourselves one with God and his creation, we lose ourselves in the whole. Self in relation to others. From reading 262-9, be mindful of speaking as the opportunity is given day by day. You don't have to become offensive, no. Kindness is never offensive, whether in thought or act. For he that gives a cup of cold water in my name shall not lose his reward. This is often interpreted as reward for self. Instead, it is the inner knowledge that his spirit bears witness with your spirit, that he knows you among men. Thus the body can act as the missionary, the emissary. As we seek within for our ideal, we find what is vital to form our concepts and precepts. These are the things that lift us upward and build within us that which endures without end. We should let neither flattery, criticism, nor opinion of others sway us from these vital things. When temptations arise, let us turn within to see if we are true to ourselves. We cannot be true to others unless we are true to ourselves. As we become able to discriminate right from wrong, good from evil, we reach the plane where we may master our destiny. We find it by keeping the whole law. You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart and your neighbor as yourself. See Luke 10:27. This is a spiritual desire, for the carnal mind is envious. In all of us is a still voice, teaching sacrifice, love, and service, warning of every catastrophe and protecting from all danger. When the still voice is heeded and followed, no mistakes are made, no war is fought, no homes broken up, for then we seek the good of our neighbor and the will of our Creator. Let us dare see ourselves as others see us, literally, in your mind's eye. Stand aside and watch self pass. Let each think back over his day's words and acts and see the reaction of others. Then ask, why did I do this or that? Would I act before God as I acted before my brother? Do we express our concept of God in how we contact our fellow man? It is indeed true that no man liveth to himself, and no man dieth to himself. From 262-9, question 13. What must I do in order to know self better? Answer. When you meditate upon your various activities as to how often you become the impetus of another's activity, you may see whether self is understood or not, based on the results of your activities. How often have you caused others to look within to see if they were in accord with what he would have them do? How often have you made another think better of himself, not laud, but think better of himself? In this you may see self, for in magnifying him you see yourself as others see you in your activities. It is well to know what others think of us. We must accept being measured by the standard that we give others the impression we hold. We must live so this measurement causes us neither shame nor humiliation. It is our duty to study and discipline ourselves so each word and action reflects just what we would be, and not have them so different they are not recognized as children of the same family. From reading 1183-1, Remember then that all is one, and look into self, if ye would understand thy neighbor, thy friend, yea, thy foe. For that ye do to thy friend, thy neighbor, yea, thy foe, is a reflection of what thou thinkest of thy Creator. Hence the injunction has been oft to remain fervent and constant in prayer. Oft in meditation seek not what this or that influence might indicate, but as he has promised, what thy God would direct thee to do. As we seek to know ourselves, whether through meditation or by taking inventory, we pass signposts. We see a little light day by day, catching a word here, an idea there. From those we contact, they help us realize that all are traveling the same road. Truly, the better we understand ourselves, the better we understand others. Doesn't it make us more tolerant of our brother to see him as we are, or as we have been? Since service is a means of fulfilling our mission here, the question arises, who is this brother we should serve? It is whoever needs help, whether friend or foe, regardless of his race or creed. When Jesus defined this question, he said, "Here are my mother and my brothers. Whoever does the will of my heavenly Father is my brother, my sister, my mother." See Matthew 12th chapter, beginning at the 49th verse. If we measure our lives' daily activities by the standard of the Christ, we will have no regrets. Following the Master's teaching leads toward a perfect understanding. Then a quote from a personal experience. "Be what you seem. Live your creed. Hold up to each the torch divine. Be what you pray to be. Let the Master Jesus' steps be thine." Self in relation to creative force. By keeping in touch with the creative force, we rise above conditions where the blind lead the blind and know we are guided by the all-seeing eye in all we are called to do. Psalm 139 tells us, "If I ascend up into heaven, thou art there. If I make my bed in hell, behold, thou art there. If I take the wings of the morning and dwell in the uttermost parts of the sea, even there shall thy hand lead me." Let us awaken, knowing God speaks to us, leads us, and protects us, knowing his Spirit even now bears witness with our spirit that we are sons of God. From reading 262-7, when will I be ready to begin my spiritual work under your instruction? Answer: when the light in self becomes sufficient to know the awakening that gives strength, power, and understanding. By using what you know, the light comes. When will you put that in more perfect activity? Don't become confused by waiting, and don't be so over-anxious that you think any source, any channel will do. Know what he said, "My sheep will hear my voice, and not heed any other." As our souls cry out to their Creator, let us remember the promise, "He that hungers and thirsts after righteousness shall be filled." See Matthew 5th chapter 6th verse. He will come as the wind from we know not where, so all seekers will know that it is God speaking to them in his holy temple, their body, and know "I am that I am" is his name. See Exodus 3rd chapter 14th verse for this name of God. That will be our true awakening. We will know our physical, mental, and spiritual bodies are one body, one in love, one in truth, one in service, and one in God. From reading 262-7, don't doubt either yourself or your abilities, for strength comes from doing. Keep that consciousness which answers to self, as face answers to face in the mirror, and this consciousness will answer self as to whether God's Spirit bears witness with your spirit. The awakening of self. Our three bodies, physical, mental, and soul, compared to the triune God. The body physical compares to man. The body mental compares to man's Savior, because we apply our mental to control and build both our physical body and our soul. The Creator made our body-soul in his own image to be his spiritual companion. The physical body is the house, the home of our soul, during a life in the material world. We express the powers lent to our souls and bodies for their passage through the earth. How? By what we do with the opportunities given us throughout that experience. From reading 262-11, as he gave. Awakening can be done by the words and acts of individuals, but to increase the understanding is God's work. Don't expect that to be your work. Instead, bring the opportunities, the awakening, the light, the knowledge, for he predestined those who are called. As our soul forces awaken and we apply our new knowledge in relating to our fellow man, we realize our relationship to our Maker. For as you do it unto one of the least of these, you do it unto me. See Matthew 25:40. Being aware of our physical desires and appetites is physical awakening. Satisfying them selfishly is sin. The experience of our first parents, told in Genesis 3:6, illustrates this. So when the woman saw that the tree was good for food, and that it was a delight to the eyes, and that the tree was to be desired to make one wise, she took of its fruit and ate. And she also gave some to her husband, and he ate. When we become aware that our mind can control our physical desires, we have a mental awakening. Quote, but Daniel resolved that he would not defile himself with the king's rich food or with the wine which he drank. Unquote. See Daniel 1st chapter, 8th verse. This illustrates one man standing firm because of his mental awakening, although it seemingly sacrificed life itself. When we reconcile the spirit we find within ourselves with the spirit we manifest to others, when we know they are both from God and know they are one spirit, we have a spiritual awakening. Jesus manifested spiritual awakening perfectly by his daily life among men. Awakening is a natural result when we attune ourselves to our source, the source of all good, allowing his spirit to bear witness with our spirit. By our awakening, we know we are indeed sons of God. We show our spiritual awakening by our patience, tolerance, long-suffering, and forbearance. Our awakening shows we are not willing for any to suffer, but rather are willing for all to come to knowledge of the truth. When we practice these virtues in our daily lives, we become masters among men. Conclusion. We should so live in body and mind that we may be channels for creative force. Let us give more attention to our thoughts, for thoughts are deeds and are children of the union of mind and soul. What we continually think, we become. What we cherish mentally builds into our physical bodies, becoming not only food for our souls, but also our soul's future heritage. Will is an attribute of the soul. Exercising our will either makes us one with our Maker or separates us from him. By will we can either adhere to or work against those immutable laws set between the Creator and his creation. Let us determine within ourselves to follow a constructive program. This program requires that each of us take a definite stand. We will adhere to it no matter what we suffer mentally or physically. We will trust the divine force within for strength to endure and ability to say no when we should. We will consider the needs of others just as we consider our own needs. May we study to be acceptable to God in body, mind, and soul. May we become less and less aware of our body's carnal desires. Is our purpose in life to satisfy fleshly longings and gain power, position, and wealth? Are we to lose our souls by so doing? The choice is ours. The Christ stands ready to help. Shall we bar the door of our own consciousness? From 262-5, Father, as we seek to see and know thy face, may we each, as individuals and as a group, come to know ourselves even as we are known, that we, as lights in thee, may give the better concept of thy Spirit in this world. End of A Search for God Paraphrased, Book 1, Lesson 2, Know Thyself. Reading is by the author, L. Nelson Farley. Recording engineer is Mike Crowell. Recorded at EDGAR in Hampton, Virginia.